The contract Sophia Winters stood at her father's grave, rain sliding down her face, indistinguishable from her tears. At 32, she had never imagined burying the man who had taught her to dream in blueprints and possibilities. Richard Winters had built Winters Construction from nothing, creating a legacy that employed hundreds and transformed the city's skyline. Now that legacy teetered on the edge of bankruptcy, a fact Sophia had discovered only hours after his heart attack. Ms. Winters. The deep voice behind her belonged to Harrison Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises and her father's longtime competitor. She turned to face him, conscious of her rain-soaked black dress and the dark circles beneath her eyes. At 40, Reed cut an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered in a tailored suit that remained perfectly dry beneath his umbrella. His sharp features and penetrating gray eyes gave nothing away. But Sophia knew his presence at the funeral wasn't a courtesy. Vultures rarely attended out of respect. "Mr. Reed, here to celebrate your victory?" Her voice was steady despite her grief. "Congratulations. My father's company will be easy to acquire now." Harrison studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "I'm not here to buy a failing company, Ms. Winters. I'm here to propose a solution." "I'm not interested in your solutions. You haven't heard it yet." He glanced around the cemetery where mourners were dispersing. "Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere dry." "My car is waiting." Sophia hesitated, years of her father's warnings about Harrison Reed echoing in her mind, but desperation made even the devil's company tempting. She nodded once, following him to a sleek black limousine that waited at the cemetery entrance. Inside the car, warmth enveloped her, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness that had settled in her chest since her father's death. Harrison handed her a thick manila envelope without preamble. "Your father's company has debts exceeding $20 million, secured against assets that are rapidly depreciating," he said, his tone businesslike. "3 major projects are behind schedule, and your largest client is considering legal action." Sophia stared at him, anger momentarily overtaking grief. "Have you been investigating us?" "I investigate all potential investments." His eyes met hers directly. Contrary to what Richard believed, I respected him. "I have no desire to see his life's work dismantled and sold for parts." "Then what do you want?" Harrison leaned forward slightly. "A merger of sorts." Sophia opened the envelope, finding detailed financial projections, restructuring plans, and, most surprisingly, a contract that would transfer controlling interest of Winters Construction to her. Backed by Reed Enterprises' financial resources, the terms were unexpectedly favorable, preserving the company name and all current employees. "Why would you offer this?" she asked, suspicion coloring her voice. "What's the catch?" "Marriage." The single word hung in the air between them. Sophia stared, certain she had misheard. "Excuse me?" "I'm proposing marriage, Ms. Winters." Harrison's voice remained calm, as if discussing a standard business acquisition. "A legal union that would benefit us both professionally." Sophia laughed, a sharp sound with no humor behind it. "You can't be serious." "Entirely." He handed her another document, a marriage contract outlining terms, conditions, and expectations. Reed Enterprises needs to secure the Kimura project. Tanaka Kimura is old-fashioned and prefers to work with family businesses. A merger through marriage solves both our problems. Sophia scanned the document, each clause more surreal than the last. "This says we would live together but lead separate lives." "A marriage in name only." "Correct. We maintain appearances publicly, share a residence for convenience, but otherwise continue our independent lives. After 5 years we reassess. This is insane." Sophia closed the folder. "I'm an architect, Mr. Reed, not a commodity to be traded." "You're also the daughter of a man who left 200 families depending on Winters Construction for their livelihoods," Harrison countered. "Families that will be devastated when the company collapses, which it will within 6 months without intervention." The calculated precision of his assessment struck Sophia like a physical blow. She had run the numbers herself, sleepless nights spent searching for solutions that didn't exist. Without immediate capital infusion, her father's legacy would crumble, and with it the security of everyone who had trusted Richard Winters. "Why marriage?" she asked finally. "Why not just a standard business arrangement?" "The Kimura project requires family involvement. Furthermore, my board has been pressuring me to settle down, concerned about public perception of my personal life." He straightened his already impeccable tie. "You need capital and business connections. I need a suitable partner who understands the corporate world. It's mutually beneficial." Sophia looked out the car window at the rain-soaked cemetery, her father's fresh grave visible in the distance. The responsibility she carried felt crushing. And if I refuse, then I wish you luck saving Winter's construction on your own. Harrison's tone held no malice, just cold reality. My offer expires in 48 hours. The car had stopped outside her apartment building. Sophia gathered her composure along with the folders of documents. I'll need time to review these. Of course, my contact information is inside. Harrison didn't move to open the door for her. One more thing, Miss Winters. If we proceed, this arrangement remains confidential. To the outside world, we are a legitimate couple who met through business connections and fell in love. Nothing less will satisfy Kimura or my board. Sophia nodded stiffly, stepping out into the rain once more. Inside her apartment, she spread the contracts across her kitchen table, the legal language swimming before her exhausted eyes. The terms were clear. Marriage to Harrison Reed would save her father's company, preserve jobs, and maintain the Winters legacy. The cost was 5 years of her life, living with a stranger in a relationship that existed only on paper. 2 days later, she signed the contracts in Harrison's minimalist office overlooking the city. His signature beside hers was bold and confident, revealing nothing of the man behind it. I'll have my assistant arrange the wedding, he said, sliding the papers to his lawyer. Something appropriate for our positions. We should aim for 6 weeks from now. Fine. Sophia's voice sounded distant to her own ears. But I want a clause added protecting my autonomy within Winter's construction. I remain the principal architect and maintain creative control. Harrison considered this, then nodded, agreed, provided major financial decisions require mutual approval. They shook hands like business partners closing a deal, which was precisely what they were. 6 weeks later, Sophia stood in a designer wedding dress that cost more than her car, preparing to marry a man she barely knew. The ceremony would be at the Reed estate, a sprawling mansion overlooking the Pacific. With 400 guests, most of whom Sophia had never met, her best friend, Theodora Teddy Park, adjusted the cathedral-length veil with worried eyes. You can still back out, Soph. We could be in Mexico by midnight. Sophia managed a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And abandon 200 families who depend on Winter's construction. This is just business, Teddy, a 5-year contract. Marriage isn't supposed to be a contract, Teddy insisted, especially not to Harrison Reed. Do you know what they call him? The Iceman. They say he's never been in a relationship longer than it takes to sign acquisition papers. Perfect, Sophia replied, smoothing the silk of her gown. We're on the same page then. But as she walked down the aisle toward Harrison, resplendent in a custom tuxedo that emphasized his imposing frame, Sophia felt a flutter of unease. His expression remained impassive as he watched her approach, gray eyes revealing nothing of his thoughts. For a moment their gazes locked and Sophia glimpsed something unexpected, a flash of appreciation, perhaps even admiration, before his mask of polite indifference returned. They exchanged vows written by Harrison's lawyers, promising things neither intended to deliver. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Harrison leaned down and pressed a brief, formal kiss to Sophia's lips, their first and, she assumed, last physical contact. The reception passed in a blur of faces and congratulations. Sophia played her role perfectly, smiling at Harrison's side, accepting well wishes from strangers who believed they were witnessing the beginning of a love story rather than the execution of a business strategy. You're very convincing, Harrison murmured as they danced their obligatory first dance, his hand respectfully positioned at her waist. Kimura is impressed. I designed my father's first office building when I was 22, Sophia replied, maintaining her smile for their audience. I know how to make a functional facade appear beautiful. Something flickered in Harrison's eyes, surprise perhaps at her sharp response. We'll depart for the honeymoon as planned. Separate suites have been arranged at each location. 2 weeks, 3 countries, all documented for social media. Then we return to real life. And what does real life look like, Mr. Reed? Sophia asked as the dance ended. Harrison, he corrected, at least in public. And real life looks like success, Sophia, for both of us. Later that night, as their private plane carried them toward a honeymoon that was merely another business obligation, Sophia stared out the window at the darkening sky. She had saved her father's company, secured the livelihoods of hundreds, and lost her. Part 2. Separate lives. 2 years passed in calculated silence. The sprawling Reed mansion functioned like a well-designed building with separate wings. Elegant, functional, and utterly devoid of warmth. Sophia and Harrison had perfected the art of coexistence without connection. Every morning, Sophia woke at 6, exercised in her private gym, and left for the winter's construction offices by 7:30. Harrison rose at 5, conducted early international calls, and departed by 7. Their paths rarely crossed except at scheduled public appearances, where they performed flawlessly as the power couple of the business world. The arrangement worked. Winter's construction had not only survived but thrived under Sophia's innovative direction and Harrison's financial backing. The Kimura project was a resounding success, and Reed Enterprises' stock had risen 15% since their marriage. Professionally, they had everything. Personally, they had nothing. Sophia's bedroom suite occupied the east wing of the mansion, decorated in the warm minimalism she preferred, clean lines softened by natural materials. Harrison's domain in the west wing remained a mystery to her. In 2 years, she had never ventured there. Their staff, housekeeper Mrs. Flores, cook Bernard, and various assistants, had adapted to the strange rhythm of the household, ensuring the couple rarely needed to interact privately. One stormy night, Sophia worked late in her home office designing an eco-friendly community center. The house felt particularly empty, with most of the staff gone due to the weather warning. Lightning flashed, followed by thunder that shook the windows. Then the lights flickered and died. Darkness enveloped her, the storm's fury blocking even moonlight. Sophia fumbled for her phone, using its flashlight to navigate toward the kitchen where emergency candles were stored. Passing the rarely used living room, she heard something unexpected, a voice low and distressed. Harrison's voice. Sophia hesitated, then followed the sound. In the dim glow of her phone light, she found Harrison asleep on the sofa, his normally immaculate appearance disheveled, his face contorted in what appeared to be a nightmare, murmuring words that sounded like please. Please, don't leave them. Not my fault. Sophia stood frozen, witnessing a vulnerability she never imagined existed beneath Harrison's perfectly controlled exterior. She should leave, respect the boundaries they'd established. Instead, she approached quietly. Harrison, she called softly. You're dreaming. His eyes flew open, disoriented and haunted before recognition dawned. He sat up abruptly, raking fingers through his disheveled hair. Sophia. His voice was rough, stripped of its usual precision. The power went out, she finished, keeping her distance. You were having a nightmare. Harrison's face closed immediately, the momentary openness vanishing. Apologizes if I disturbed you. You didn't. She hesitated, then asked, Are you all right? Perfectly fine. He straightened his wrinkled shirt, armor being reassembled piece by piece. Merely fell asleep reviewing reports. Sophia nodded but couldn't forget the raw pain she'd glimpsed. As she turned to leave, her flashlight illuminated a photograph on the side table. A family. Mother, father, and 2 boys. The younger one unmistakably Harrison. They stood before a modest house, nothing like the mansion they now occupied. Harrison noticed her gaze and moved to block the photo from view. Something in the gesture seemed protective rather than embarrassed. The circuit breakers are in the basement, he said, clearly eager to end the encounter. I'll check them. Sophia should have simply nodded and returned to her wing. Instead, she asked, who were they? In the photograph. Silence stretched between them, filled by rain lashing against windows. Finally, Harrison answered, his voice carefully neutral. My family. Before the accident. Accident? A story for another time. He moved past her toward the door. Good night, Sophia. As the lights flickered back to life minutes later, Sophia remained standing in the living room, staring at the photograph Harrison had forgotten to hide away. For the first time in 2 years, she wondered about the man behind the business titan. The boy in the photograph whose eyes held none of the coldness she'd come to associate with Harrison Reed. That night, lying awake in her beautiful empty bedroom, Sophia realized their carefully constructed separation had developed its first crack. Behind Harrison's walls of ice lived a human being with a past she knew nothing about, a past that still haunted his dreams. She wondered what other secrets lurked in the silence between them. Awakening, the change began subtly. Harrison started arriving home earlier. Sophia found herself lingering over dinner in the shared dining room, rather than taking trays to her office. Their conversations remained professional but expanded beyond necessary topics. "Congratulations on the Richardson project," Harrison said one evening, surprising Sophia with his knowledge of her latest architectural commission. "Thank you. How did you know about that?" Harrison looked slightly uncomfortable. "I read the announcement in Architectural Digest. Your sustainable design approach is impressive." Sophia studied him over her wineglass. "You read Architectural Digest?" "Occasionally," he cleared his throat. "Your father once told me your designs would revolutionize urban spaces." He appears to have been correct. The mention of her father, so rarely discussed between them, created an unexpected moment of connection. Sophia found herself sharing details about the project, her passion evident as she described the community gardens incorporated into the high-rise design. Harrison listened with genuine interest, asking questions that revealed unexpected knowledge about architectural principles. When Sophia expressed surprise, he admitted, "I considered architecture before business. Buildings have always fascinated me. Yet you chose to acquire them rather than design them," she observed. Something flickered in his eyes. "We don't always get to choose our paths, Sophia." These moments multiplied over subsequent weeks. Harrison began working from home occasionally. Sophia found herself passing his open office door, sometimes pausing when he was on calls, observing how different he looked when focused on work, alive with purpose, commanding yet fair with his employees. When Sophia won the prestigious Dawson Award for Sustainable Architecture, Harrison attended the ceremony without being asked. Watching from the podium as she accepted her award, Sophia spotted him in the audience, his expression holding something that looked remarkably like pride. Later that evening, he offered her a glass of champagne on the terrace overlooking the gardens. "Your speech was excellent," he said, "particularly the part about architecture serving communities, not just corporations." Sophia studied him. Was that a criticism of your own business model? Perhaps a recognition of its limitations? Harrison looked out at the darkened garden. "Buildings should have purpose beyond profit. Is that why you kept my father's company intact? For purpose beyond profit?" Harrison was silent for a long moment. "Your father built something meaningful, rare enough to deserve preservation." They stood together in comfortable silence, the evening stretching between them like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. That night, Sophia lay awake thinking about the man she had married yet never truly met. The Harrison Reed appearing in glimpses lately seemed nothing like the cold businessman who had proposed their arrangement. This Harrison listened when she spoke, remembered details about her work, and occasionally revealed fragments of genuine thought beneath his perfect exterior. Across the mansion, Harrison sat in his darkened office, reviewing a file that contained everything about Sophia Winters, now Reed, that couldn't be found in public records. Her volunteer work designing homeless shelters, her anonymous donations to architectural scholarships, her unwavering loyalty to her father's employees. He closed the file, uncomfortable with the realization that their business arrangement had become something he hadn't anticipated, something that felt dangerously like caring. The revelation, the carefully constructed equilibrium between Sophia and Harrison shattered when James Calloway, Harrison's chief business rival, launched a hostile takeover attempt of Winters Construction. "He's exploiting a loophole in the original merger agreement," Harrison explained, pacing Sophia's office. "Technically, your father's company remains separate from Reed Enterprises." Sophia stared at the legal documents spread across her desk. "How do we stop this?" Harrison's eyes met hers. "We, not you or I." "Yes, we," Sophia affirmed. "This is my father's legacy." For the first time since their marriage began, they worked as genuine partners. Nights stretched into early mornings as they developed counter-strategies. Harrison's ruthless business acumen complemented Sophia's creative problem-solving. They argued, brainstormed, and occasionally even laughed over takeout dinners in Sophia's office. One night, exhausted after a particularly grueling strategy session, Harrison rubbed his eyes and murmured, "Richard would have loved watching you fight for his company." Sophia looked up, surprised. "You speak as if you knew him well." Harrison hesitated. "I did once. My father always described you as his competitor. Nothing more. We were complicated." Harrison stood, moving to the window. "Your father gave me my first construction job when I was 17. Paid for my business classes at night school." Sophia stared at him. "That's impossible. He never mentioned—" I imagine he wouldn't after I left Winter's construction to start my own company. Harrison's voice car. No, she stood, gathering her papers. I need time to process this alone. The next morning, Harrison found a note on the kitchen counter. Sophia had taken a leave of absence from Winter's construction and moved temporarily to Teddy's apartment. She needed space to reconsider their arrangement in light of this new information. Alone in the mansion that had never felt like a home, Harrison realized he had made a crucial mistake. In treating their marriage as a business contract, he had failed to recognize when it had become something else entirely, something he wasn't ready to lose. New beginnings. 3 weeks passed without communication. Sophia threw herself into a pro bono project, designing transitional housing. Working from Teddy's spare bedroom and avoiding all news about Harrison or Reed Enterprises. He lied to you, Teddy reminded her over coffee one morning. You have every right to be angry. He didn't technically lie, Sophia admitted. He just didn't tell me everything. Same difference. Is it though? Sophia stared into her mug. I never asked about his connection to my father. I accepted his business proposal without questioning his motives. Because you were grieving and desperate to save your father's company, Teddy countered. Yes, but Sophia hesitated. These past months, working with him, seeing glimpses of who he really is beneath all that control. I wonder if I've been unfair. Teddy studied her friend closely. You have feelings for him. Sophia didn't deny it. How ridiculous is that, falling for my own husband? Pretty on brand for you, architectural genius with zero emotional blueprints, Teddy teased gently. That afternoon, a messenger delivered an envelope containing a single letter, handwritten, not typed. Harrison's precise handwriting filled several pages with truths he had never shared. About losing his parents and younger brother in the accident he'd mentioned. About Richard Winters giving a troubled teenager a chance when no one else would. About building walls around himself so high that he'd forgotten how to live without them. The final paragraph made Sophia's heart stop. Our marriage began as a contract. But somewhere in the silence between us, it became the most real thing in my life. I don't know how to be the man you deserve, but if you're willing, I would like to try. Not as business partners, not because of promises made, but because these past 2 years have shown me what my life could be with you truly in it. Sophia read the letter 3 times before calling Harrison's private number. We should talk, she said when he answered. Really talk this time. They met at neutral ground, the small park where Sophia had played as a child. Where her father had first shown her the joy of creating something with her hands, building sandcastles that evolved into skyscrapers. Harrison looked different. Less polished, more human in casual clothes, his expression open and uncertain as Sophia approached. I should have told you everything from the beginning, he said without preamble. I was wrong, Sophia nodded. Yes, you were, but I never gave you reason to trust me with the truth either. We've been strangers living in the same house for 2 years. I don't want that anymore, Harrison admitted. I want a real marriage. A real life with you. If that's even possible after everything. I don't know if it's possible, Sophia said honestly, but I think it might be worth trying to find out. Harrison reached for her hand cautiously as if expecting rejection. When Sophia's fingers intertwined with his, the simple touch felt more intimate than anything they had shared before. How do we start? He asked. Sophia smiled. We could try something radical like having dinner together. By choice, not obligation. I'd like that. 1 year later, Sophia and Harrison stood in the garden of the mansion that had finally become their home. Before their closest friends, they exchanged new vows. Ones they had written themselves. Promises made with full knowledge and open hearts. When we first married, Harrison said, holding Sophia's hands in his, I thought contracts were stronger than feelings. I was wrong. What we've built this past year, brick by brick, truth by truth, is stronger than anything I've ever created. Sophia's eyes shone as she responded. An architect knows that the space between structural elements is as important as the elements themselves. In the silence between us, something beautiful was waiting to be discovered. I'm grateful we found the courage to look. As they sealed their vows with a kiss that held nothing back, Teddy wiped away tears and whispered to the guest beside her. Who would have thought, the Iceman and the architect, melting walls 1 brick at a time. The business contract that had brought them together had long since been fulfilled. The love that grew in its place promised something far more enduring, a foundation strong enough to build a lifetime upon.